Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. We have a few more people that we're expecting to have join shortly.
Good morning. This is Clark Stevens. I'm trying to change my name. I'm not so that people know who
Yeah.
I am.
So Parker C. Stevens is one of our ERB members, as is Barbara Kaufman and Jennifer Brett, if you want to make sure their video is enabled.
Great. Thank you.
The video should work fine.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've got Noah. Marnie will be joining us this morning shortly as well. And thank you, Tyler. Senior Planner Eaton will be sitting in for the directors this morning. And let me just shoot a reminder to, oh, here we go. So Courtney, as soon as Patrick has connected, I think we're good to start.
I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I would like to call to order the Malibu Environmental Review Board meeting of Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. This meeting is being held by teleconference. Boards and city staff are participating from remote locations. Members of the public can participate in the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public wishing to speak during the meeting must click the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen to indicate a desire to speak after the item has been announced by the chair, and must be present in the teleconference when called upon to be recognized. Once called upon, please lower your hand in the Zoom meeting. Board members, if you have comments to make during this meeting, please raise your hand using the raise hand link at the bottom of your screen, and I will call on you in turn so we can make our discussion clear for the record and for the public. So we will move on to item number 1, written and oral communications from staff and the board. I am seeing none. Is that still the case?
That is.
Okay. We will move on to item number 2, old business. I'm seeing none.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 3, new business, and I will pass this off to our planner, Akash.
Good morning, members of the board. Today we are here to present a case on a new application on 28904 Verde Mesa Lane. The CDPWF number 23007 and a variance 23033. Next slide, please. The project description is to propose a new on-site wastewater treatment, which is 3,634 gallon Microseptec ES12 unit with UV disinfection, which has a 5,100 square feet of drip disposal area. The project also involves a discretionary request, variance number 2300033 for encroachment into the ASHA. Next slide, please. This slide shows the vicinity map and the project site location. The site is irregularly shaped lot on Verde Mesa Lane at the end of the cul-de-sac. It is zoned RR5 and approximately 1.01 acre in size. The project site was destroyed. The single family residence on the site was destroyed by the Woolsey fire, and they have obtained the approvals to rebuild and reconstruct the single family residence. And it is being constructed on the site as of now. The parcel is located partially in the appeal jurisdiction as depicted in the map. But the proposed work will take place in the appealable portion of the property. Next slide, please. So on this site, you can see the location of the new on-site wastewater treatment system that is marked in the purple circle over here. The blue line stream is on the other end of the property, shown in the aqua line over here. The single family residence is like just outside the 100 feet buffer. The dispersal, so why we are here in front of you today is because the drip dispersal system that they are proposing is within the 100 feet from the blue line stream. It is approximately 60 feet away from the stream. Next slide, please. So the site was previously evaluated by the designer. Six seepage pits were excavated, only out of which 2 passed the pre-soak phase of the testing. The 2 seepage pits demonstrated a flow rate of approximately 1,300 gallons, which does not meet the minimum requirements for a residential project. So based on that, testing was performed for subsurface drip area that you can see at the upper portion of the property, like near the entrance, and on the other side of the residence as well. This is marked in red area, like red hatched area over here. So those are the 2 areas where the designer is proposing the drip dispersal seepage pit. You can also see that it is approximately 60 feet away, which is best location as of now for proposing that. Next slide, please. So according to the biology assessment report, there are some non-native annuals such as cheeseweed, thistle, common in this area proposed. Some non-native trees such as palm and eucalyptus are also present in that stream area as well. The proposed dispersal field is 60 feet away from the stream, but as mentioned before, it is within the 100 feet buffer. So that's why we are in front of you today to ask for your recommendation on this project. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Akash. And can we unmute for Luis Penna, and perhaps the applicant team would like to provide a few remarks or let people know who is available to respond to questions.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, we can hear you.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Luis. I am the applicant, and I'm here just in case you have any questions. I was responsible of the house design and the whole project, and then we also have John Jaroslawski from In Situ And then we have Edith Reed, who's the biologist, if you have any questions for them.
Hi, this is Eric Nguyen. I'm the property owner. I just joined the call as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
guys so much. Oh, sorry, Rebecca. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, if there are any ERB members that have comments that they'd like to start off with, please let us know. Yeah, okay. Noah, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I'm using a new mic. Want to make sure everyone can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for the design team and then a couple of recommendations as well. First question, the blue line that's 60 feet away from the field location, that's 60 feet to the center of the channel?
Does anybody from, I'm looking on my end, but does anybody from the design team or Edith have any comments on that?
Maybe I mean, Edith can respond to this, but she indicated in the biological report where the blue line is, and we use that as a reference. I'm not sure if it was the center, if it was the edge of the bank.
I assume it's probably the center, in which case the actual stream is closer than 60 feet.
Yeah, typically you should measure from the edge of the bank. So maybe if either three can elaborate on how it was done for this one.
Edith, do you have any comments on this? I'm still trying to find it on my end.
Yeah, this is John Yaroslawski. I'm the wastewater engineer.
Uh-huh.
The way that we typically do the setbacks, it's to the center of the blue line or the creek. Because
Okay.
a lot of times on these slopes, is you can't really tell where the bank is, and they are it doesn't flow year round, so that's why we do the flow line based on the topo.
So,
Okay.
thank you. And I think based on that, it would be more relevant to measure the distance to the riparian area rather than the distance to the center of the stream, because the center of the stream isn't necessarily a relevant measure.
Yes, I would agree with that. This is Edith.
Yeah, and I'll condone that as well. That's how the city typically requires.
Okay. Second question that I have. I was a little bit unclear. So there's going to be 2 dispersal fields, or is the one at the top going to be abandoned?
The seepage pits at the top, the first thing we looked at was we tried to put we always try to put the treatment system as far away from ESHA or blue line as we can. So we tested the seepage pits at the top, and we didn't have enough capacity in the top to really get rid of any water. And then we do have some area in the top where we did use for the subsurface irrigation, but it wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so both will be used.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, I guess especially for the lower field, which is more relevant here. What measures will be in place for spill prevention in the case of failure, and also for regular runoff prevention into the
So
habitat
typically
below?
on these steeper slope systems, we do a geotextile fabric over the top of the field that we use in a lot of different places, including the Malibu Jewish Center, where that actually is for stream banks and creek beds, and it keeps the area from eroding. So that would keep the topsoil in place. And then we also have the drip lines down. The manufacturer says you can have them as shallow as 6 inches, but I designed them 1.5 feet down. which actually helps with the surfacing of the soil. And then the way we set them up in a field where there are, it's dispersed in 2x2 grid with the subsurface drip emitters. So it is spread out over the field, so they don't we don't have any issues with the saturation to toe of the slope. So this is designed for steeper slopes and to mitigate any erosion caused by runoff.
Thank you. And then, okay, the geotech fabric, how long is that rated for? What's the lifespan of that fabric?
I think it's a 20-25 year fabric. It's not a typical jute fabric.
Mhm.
This is actually a poly fabric, but plants can go through it. It's called Puramat, and it's used for permanent bank erosion measures. It's not like the typical stuff that you use or I used on the bluff at my house, where it actually degrades over time, becomes, goes back into the soil. This one actually stays in place.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your answers to my questions. I do have a couple of recommendations as well.
Go for it.
So the first recommendation would be that some sort of native vegetation be used in concert with the leach field to help absorb any nutrients so they're not transported down towards the habitat. As we can see, the habitat is already pretty impacted with excessive nutrient loads due to all of the non-native vegetation that's growing there. So we wouldn't want to add to that. So it'd be good to try to soak up as much of that as possible before it runs downhill.
Can I respond to that while
Yeah.
or you want me to wait?
Go for it. Go for
So we're actually on this system, in this situation, we are doing an advanced treatment system that does remove nutrients. So we are treating the wastewater for nutrient removal prior to even discharging to the field. And then the way these are set up, and I totally agree with you, they are designed for infiltration, but we do have evapotranspiration happening. So we do want these to be planted with native vegetation or other vegetation, but we do treat the nutrient load prior to disposal into the subsurface irrigation system.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Next recommendation would be since we are causing an impact to the native riparian habitat, as part of the mitigation, there should be some remediation of that habitat, which could include removal of a lot of those weedy species, both from the property and from the habitat. And also planting of native species within the property and habitat as appropriate. And final recommendation, I saw on the biological assessment that there is a monarch site, the overwintering site nearby. And I saw that there are potentially some eucalyptus that I could see on the aerials. So this is a potential overwintering site. So any plants that could be beneficial to an overwintering site, as I mentioned in previous meetings, that would be winter nectar plants and not milkweed. That would be appropriate for this site. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Got it. Wrote them all down. Thank you, Noah. I really appreciate those recommendations. Okay, so Clark, I saw your hand go up.
Sure. Hi, I have a couple of background questions first. I've not been involved with these processes much. So we're approving a system for a house that is a rebuild after Woolsey on the original footprint. Am I correct in that understanding?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not an expanded footprint. It's within, the area the house was before it was lost.
Yes.
Okay. Then I have a kind of follow-up question on the potential for planting. This would all be your zone 1 or zone A, depending on how you think about it, that first 20 to 60 feet from the house. So that's typically, right, thought it was an irrigated zone. It's a fire zone. Obviously, this is a high fire return area. And so I was wondering at what point in the process would we typically see a landscape plan proposed, if at all? Just curious why that's not a part of this.
Akash, did you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
The landscape is not proposed as a part of this project, but you can recommend that the applicant team, if they wish, they can submit a landscape project with this application as well.
Yeah, I think in integrated, to follow on Noah's comments, some integrated plan that includes potentially some improvement in the ESHA would be a good idea to understand, because the drip system, it's the dispersal system, there's some interesting opportunities there. I'm not familiar with the limitations for planting. It sounds like Mr. Yaroslavsky could probably answer these questions, whether any kind of shrub potentials there, what or whether it has to be a seed mix, or what limitations there are for planting over a system like this, to ensure its future life and
Yeah.
maintenance.
So John, I'll let you answer that, but the landscaping plan is submitted separately with the other applications that have to do with the house. So your recommendation is to have an integrated landscape plan that takes into account the seepage pit and this. I just want to make sure I write it down.
Yeah, because it's been
Clear.
pointed out, and I agree. My understanding for it's interesting in the code, the setback is from the blue line for systems, but now we're looking at a field, which is an intervention that does come, into the slope, right? It's on the slope. Potentially, we don't know where top of bank is, and that's why that sort of, when you say the stream, I realize that with wastewater systems, you typically do look at the blue line, but now you have a situation of a very small distance between that blue line and actually the house, but certainly with the system. So that system is really kind of part of the stream bank riparian zone as well as a fire zone. And so thinking about all those things together and seeing how you're going to do that, given whatever limitations there might be to planting within an on-site treatment system like this, would be recommended, because it's an opportunity. I mean, the castor bean is terrible, and it'd be great to see that removed and other things replaced that would maintain themselves over time and help resist the kind of input of non-native species that's clearly happening in this area.
Okay, so John, I don't know if you still want to answer what plants are appropriate with dispersal fields, but I wrote down your recommendation, Clark.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer your question, Mr. Stevens, really the only thing that you cannot plant on top of these systems are trees. And I can send you specs on the subsurface irrigation emitter system. It does have what the manufacturer calls a root guard, but it actually has it's set up so that roots won't intrude into the system, and it is the typical. The emitters are different, but it kind of looks like a typical drip emitter, drip irrigation tubing. And if there is a tree issue, you can figure it out pretty quickly, because there is a lot of resistance on those emitters to open. So if there is a problem as part of maintenance, they inspect that and they inspect the field. So if there is a problem, they can take care of it. And if they do want a tree, there is a protocol that is included on my plans that they can do a loop around the tree, and they can plant something larger. But in general, I advise against planting any trees or real invasive plants in there. But I would imagine that most native plants, because of where we are, don't have real invasive roots. I would imagine they're deeper or whatever.
Well, I guess to follow up on that, so I'm a little unclear, because the field is continuous. It actually corresponds to the slope, and I was also going to ask what the the pitch of that slope was. I saw a geotechnical report in there, and so I would wonder about if you're creating a plane with a root guard that's continuous and roots can't penetrate on a hillside condition, that seems like, you know, almost like you're creating a slide plane for that, you know, where that surface material is.
And I apologize, sir. There is no actual root fabric guard. It's actual in the emitter and in the impregnated into the drip line.
Okay.
So the roots can grow around it. It's kind of like putting back, you know, up in Big Sur, we put a line of copper in the bottom of a leach field or a leach line, because like bonsai trees, the roots don't like growing around copper. So and it's not that, but it's something to keep the roots from actually growing into the emitters, not from growing around them.
I see, because they're going to seek the water, obviously. So that's
That
why.
is correct.
Yeah. Okay. So you could have mixed depth roots to help stabilize that slope and address a kind of.
You would definitely want that. And then, and if usually if I have to spec out a mix, if it's a site that doesn't have a landscape plan, I'll spec out a native grass mix that I think I talked to one of the biologists and they gave me some recommendations for that, but it can be you know, any native species other than like a tree, like a sycamore or something like that.
Okay.
Adrian, I saw your hand go up. No? Okay. Okay, Adrian, if you
You're unmuted right now.
Oh. Are you good, Adrian? Sorry.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, Clark, I wrote down your recommendation. So an integrated landscape plan. So are there any other recommendations that you have?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Other ERB members with comments at this time, please raise your hand. Barbara? Okay. Yeah. Just make sure you unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go. Okay. So usually in projects, there are more alternatives, I think, to the problem. But it seems that in this situation, it's been reviewed and there aren't any major problems except for where the leach fields are and so on. Ecologically, there aren't any problems also. So possibly a recommendation would be it mentioned that the OWTS system was meeting the minimum requirements. Does that mean it just meets the minimum requirements, or is it beyond that? I mean, could that be improved is one question. Then, well, does somebody want to answer that?
I can answer that.
Oh, I was just about to ask for clarification. The minimum requirements for what? Just for.
It says that the system, whatever is operating there, meets the minimum requirements, the code minimum requirements.
Okay.
So is it just meeting the minimum requirements, or is that just I mean, that's the words in the code, but where does the system go in this? Is it the best we can do? Is a possible improvement? Could it be a better system?
So to answer your question, like we were talking about before, the first thing that we did was try to find out if we could put a system, the dispersal in general, the tank meets setback, but the dispersal field in an area that would meet all the required setbacks. And that was in that upper or in the corner by the road. And we tried seepage pits there. The existing seepage pits are there, but we tried to first test the existing seepage pits to see if they would take enough water, and they failed the test. And we tried drilling new seepage pits, and I think we drilled quite a few. I have to look at the report, but we had 4 that failed pre-soak and 2 pits that only took 620 to 680 gallons per day. So there was really no way to put the field in the upper area. However, we were able to put a portion of the subsurface irrigation system up there because as you guys know, the upper couple feet of soil does perk better and is more suited for the subsurface irrigation or dispersal type system. and then we also tested the lower area. We actually did quite a few tests. I think we did 13 tests in total, and tried to make the system as small as possible. We don't have 100% expansion area on this. The applicant is going to forfeit that. So we made the system as small as we could, and it meets it the setbacks. It meets the setbacks, and we really don't have in my opinion, it's as small as it could be based on the calculations in the PERC report, in the PERC data.
If I could add too, so in this case, it's a fire rebuild, and so the house was granted a certain right to be rebuilt how it was prior, and so the OWTS also has to meet the sufficient to satisfy the new house output of the seepage. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So when they say minimum, it's the minimum designed to sufficiently service the approved house.
Okay, so could it be, it sounds as if you're saying it cannot be enlarged, it cannot be improved. Is that right?
Based on the design parameters, that is correct. And we, like I was saying, we did put in treatment. We have a lot of we put in additional measures because of this 60-foot setback. So yes, you are correct.
Compensate. And what about that spill prevention system, the netting, let's call it? Could that be improved? Is that the best we can do?
That is the very best we can do. Yeah, that if you look at and I can, I mean, if you would like, I can send you specifications on it. But that what I'm using is what is actually it's a permanent cover that is typically used for actual creek beds and channels. So this is it's not just your typical Home Depot type covering. This is actually an engineered system that has to be pinned in place, and it's put in correctly.
Okay, good answer. Okay, so then I guess my recommendations would be, as what was stated before, would be the removal of the invasive planting there, planting of native plants, and the need for a landscape plan that meets those that criteria.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Barbara. I've gotten all of those written down. Thank you. I wanted to just double check. Jennifer, Marnie, Patrick, do you guys have any comments? No?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Jennifer, Marnie, you guys okay?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay. And Marnie, you good?
I don't have anything, thank you. I agree with the comments that have been made so far.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for their time today. Akash, I took notes, so I'll get them to you shortly. And this concludes the ERB meeting for today, Wednesday, February 28th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.